Have you ever wanted to be a beauty queen, but you thought, maybe, just maybe my time for that is past. I'm a little on the, shall we say, more mature side.
I never wanted to be a beauty queen. Of course, I am on the upper end of the numbers now. I probably have a lot more years behind me than I do ahead of me. But when I was coming up, there were no pageants. When I was 17, we had a county fair pageant that some of the guys asked me to be in, and I laughed. I said, I don't think so. All I wanted to do was play basketball and, work on the farm and have my cattle and chickens and all that good kind of stuff.
Well, as you can see, my guest tonight is a beauty queen. So welcome to the Rebel Tribe podcast, where empowerment meets attitude and sass meets savvy. We are not just another podcast, folks. We are your virtual tribe of fierce females ready to conquer the world. So join us as we smash through stereotypes. And today we're kicking off our Women Who Inspire series. And what better way to get started than with Miss Senior Arkansas. Is that right? Is it Miss Senior Arkansas? Miss Arkansas Senior, whatever. Miss Arkansas Senior America. There we go. I had to think about
There we go. The state comes first. Yeah.
I'm a little dyslexic, so you're not the first one that I've gotten the things crossed. So
lots and lots of people still can't, even some of our past queens still can't get it right.
I mean, how much more inspiring than that can it get than to be at risk of sharing our ages, a beauty queen at our age? Okay.
Well, that's the thing about the Senior America pageant system. It's not a beauty pageant. The women that enter our pageant, we look for dignity, maturity, and integrity.
Well, I've got the maturity down and the integrity. I don't know about
Face it, as we age, things kind of shift around in our body, and we've been through a few things in our lives, and we have a few scars here and there that in our younger years would have eliminated us from, well, I guess they don't call them beauty pageants anymore. On the younger, they call them scholarship pageants, but as a whole, they're looked at as beauty pageants by the public.
Yeah, if you're traipsing around in a bathing suit, it's a beauty pageant. Sorry.
Well, that's the one thing, we don't wear swimsuits for our pageant. We traded the swimsuit for the philosophy of life. And that's 35 seconds. The queen recites from memory before the judges and a live audience about her values and what has shaped her.
Well, I'm sure to take us back to that moment when you were first crowned Miss Arkansas Senior America. That was like 2017, if I read your bio correctly.
Correct. It was a day or two ago. Can I back up just a little bit further? The first beauty pageant, our pageant, I had entered was Ms. Arkansas Senior America pageant, and that was in 2014. And that was an experience. I knew nothing about pageants, and I didn't even place, but I felt like I had been led to enter. And when I was finished, I said, well, I did what I was supposed to do, so we'll go from there. And then 3 years later, I felt another nudge to enter the 2017 pageant and contacted the administrator at the time, see if it was too late. I was kind of hoping it was. And anyhow, I entered, and I was nervous, but wasn't nervous, because once again, I knew I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And when I came down to the part to where just myself and one other contestant is left standing there on the stage looking at each other. And I had, of course, they call out the winners of the evening gown, and and the talent winner, and I had won both of those. And of course, my mind and my heart's, I figured everybody could hear my heart pounding at this time. And I thought, well, I've won those two, so could possibly I win this whole thing? And then when I was contestant number 12, when they said contestant number 12, Sherry Marshall, I was like, ah. So it was very exhilarating. I'll just put it that way.
Well, that's cool. How did all that shape the path you're on today? I mean, I'm sure that winning the pageant kind of changed your direction a little.
It did. I'm a much more confident person now, which is what we're looking at 6 years removed from the initial. I was hesitant to go into many places and ask to be a part. And as I have grown since then, and especially after becoming the administrator of the pageant, I find it's a whole lot easier to promote one of our queens than it is to promote myself still. But the pageant joined the Van Buren Chamber of Commerce last year, and I became an ambassador for the chamber. And I go to most all of their ribbon cuttings and events, and I meet various people in the Fort Smith, Van Buren, Alma, the River Valley area. And I've become very confident. It's a lot easier when you have business cards and you can walk up to somebody and say, hi, I'm Sherry Marshall. I'm the administrator for the Ms. Arkansas Senior America pageant. Our pageant gives a platform for women 60 plus to showcase their talents. And we work to dispel the myths of aging.
Well, that brings me right to the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, because we know Miss America, Miss Universe, whatever. Some people, pageants are kind of looked down on by some people. They're the object of ridicule by some people. We know, we hear it.
Yep, we do. We do.
What does the Miss Senior, the Miss Arkansas Senior America pageant, what does that represent to you, and why is it important for women of a certain age to participate in these things?
Well, as we talked earlier, we didn't have women our age, 60 plus, didn't have a lot of opportunities to be able to, I don't know if the word I want to use words are promote ourselves, but many finished high school. If you were lucky, you got to go on to college, but might not have even finished high school, because back when I was in school, if a girl got married or got pregnant, she was not allowed to continue her education. She immediately had to drop out of school and went to raising a family, taking care of the husband, taking care of the household, and all of her energy went toward her husband and her children and making them the best that they could be. And so they never had an opportunity to really know who they are, in a lot of cases. And with the Miss Arkansas Senior America pageant and the Miss Senior America pageant system, women find out that they do have the confidence to go before people. It takes a lot of confidence to get on a stage before 3 judges and a live audience in an evening gown. And you have to do talent. So our talent is 2 minutes and 45 seconds, and it can't go over that, or the contestants are penalized 3 points per judge. And since the talent, there's no song that's 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Most songs are 3 to 4 minutes. So the contestant has to find somebody who will edit their song so that they can use that in competition. And also you have to memorize your philosophy of life and recite that on stage before the judges and a live audience. And even though we feel like maybe we've have confidence. When you go into the interview where it's you and those judges, there's some nerves that come up because you're being judged, and nobody really likes to be judged.
That's for sure. I get trying to think, what can I do in 2 minutes and some odd seconds? I have no intentions of entering the pageant, but I was just like, what can you do in 2 minutes? And that's
Well, a lot of people, they go, oh, well, I don't have a talent. And what I tell people, what do you love to do? They just got, well, Legina, our Miss Arkansas Sing America 2024 queen, has been in Atlantic City, New Jersey all week competing for the title of Miss Singer America. There were the other states' queens were there, and they had a preliminary pageant on Tuesday and one on Wednesday. And then today, from those two pageants, they picked the top 12. And those top 12 were announced today. And then the top 12 competed against each other for the title. And it's unless you've been on that national pageant, you have no idea the type of talent. Many of the women have been former Miss Americas, or at least placed in a Miss America pageant. They've been in pageantry all of their life, and they've been professional singers, dancers, whatever. But as I watched it live stream, and as I watched, I saw all the many talents. And I tell people, like I said, what are you good at? There was a woman that competed. I don't remember what state she was. She was a concert photographer, and she displayed different photographs that she had taken of various artists. One woman I know one time, when I competed in 2017 in Atlantic City on the Tropicana stage, that is a huge stage, she did a monologue of the first woman to run a marathon. And as most of us remember what happened to her, they tried to drag her off the track and off, weren't going, because she was oh my God, she's a woman. She can't do something like that. So whatever you love, there were two women that placed in the top 11 this year. And it was one woman in her routine that did one-hand push-ups and the splits.
That's a talent. Okay.
Yeah. So as you can tell, talent is so varied. Some people opera singers, some people were country music singers. I personally sang one of Trisha Yearwood's American Girl, and I won the talent on the state level. And I thoroughly enjoyed performing at the Tropicana on the stage there. It was just wonderful. So don't let not sure. A lot of people put talent in a box of singing and dancing, and it's so much more varied. Another one that comes to mind, a woman designed purses, and she brought several purses and talked about the different steps that go toward putting a purse together.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of it, I don't know if you can do a one-arm push-up. I know I can't. But you are an athlete, okay? You are an athlete. You competed in the Arkansas Senior Olympics in track and field.
I did.
You actually won. You won medals. So
I did.
That's awesome. What the heck motivated you to try to do that?
After I became the 2017 Miss Arkansas Senior America, I contacted the person over the Arkansas Senior Olympics and asked if I could attend their events and possibly sing the national anthem or award awards, medals to the contestants. And he said, yeah, come on. So they were having their torch run the beginning of that year at Fayetteville. So I went up there and I thought, this is really neat. And I thought, I can do this. So I laced up my tennis shoes and started practicing. And we have a national senior Olympics where people from all over the United States and other countries come and participate. And I qualified from the state level and won the gold. Let's see it. I can't remember. I believe it was the gold in the 200 and the silver in the 50 meter and 800 meter and 200 meter. I won silvers in those, and took off to. You had to have a specific time and medals to go to the national, and so left for Albuquerque, New Mexico to compete in the National Senior Olympics there, and was running the 50-meter race and got, oh, I don't know, about 10 feet from the finish line and ripped a hamstring off of the bone.
Ooh, ow.
Oh, oh.
I'm hurt.
Very painful. Finally, when I could roll back over, they put me on the little cart, and like you see on the football games, and carted me off to the side. And anyhow, I had to ride back with my leg up on the dashboard from Albuquerque to Arkansas the next day. That was very eventful. Had to have surgery for reattachment, put a couple of anchors in. My tendons had retracted down my leg, and needless to say, I do not run anymore. But I am still very active. I still walk and lift weights, and I'm back to doing everything I could prior to the injury, except I can't get past the mind of running and having that happen possibly again.
And that is one of the reasons why I was so excited when you agreed to appear on my Women Who Inspire series, because most women, in fact, most people in general, they slow down as they age. But you're exactly the opposite. You're a shining example of not slowing down. So what drives you to stay so active? I mean, women our age are like, okay, we're retired. We're going to sit down, put our feet up, maybe putter around the garden a little bit. Not you. You're out there running 800 meters.
I've always been athletic, and have always had goals that I would set along the way. And my mindset as I got older, I would see people that fit the description that you just gave of, just puttering around. And I say, no, that's not going to be me. I'm not going there. So then when the administrator that had the pageant in 2000, well, she took it to Hot Springs and she had it for a couple of years, and unbeknownst to me and to very few people, she contacted National Pageant and released our sanction. And so I said, no, we've been doing this since 1988. There's no way that I'm going to let this happen. So I contacted the National Pageant owners and said, what do I need to do to get our sanction back? And so we did that. And I took over the last week in November in 2022 and had a pageant to put on in June of 23 with no money.
And here you are. Okay.
But I contacted thankfully for Facebook. I created a chat group of a lot of the former queens. And that's the thing about a state pageant, we're all over the state. And said, okay, this is what it's going to, because it takes money. I said, I need X amount of dollars from each region. Can you do it? And they said they could. And then I got busy up here contacting businesses and contacting a venue and getting everything set up to put a pageant on. And we had a pageant, got our queens, sent her to the national pageant. And now then we've got 2 queens now that have gone to the national pageant. So we're continuing on. Legina Legina Brown from Hot Springs is our reigning queen, and she was number 36.
Cool.
We only had 1 year that we didn't have a pageant, and that was the COVID year.
Sweet. That's awesome. So it sounds like you had a little bit of a challenging start. How has I'm guessing you're kind of competitive.
Oh, just a little bit.
Since you're joining pageants and running and competing in the Olympics. So you're an Olympic athlete, you're a pageant queen, and then you turned around and basically saved this whole organization from oblivion, basically.
Yes.
How has that shaped you? How has that contributed to your own personal development? What lessons did you learn that you can share with our ladies who are looking to you for inspiration?
When I was a contestant in 2017, my philosophy of life was something that I had learned. I guess I was in my probably 20s. I was complaining about something to my dad, and he made the statement, well, is there anything you can do about it? And I said, well, no. And he said, well, then shut up and stop complaining. Went all over me when he told me that. But after, I had time to think about it, that has been my philosophy of life. If you have a problem, ask yourself the question, is there anything I can do about it? If the answer is yes, do it. If the answer is no, shut up about it, stop complaining, and let God take control. And so there was something that I could do to keep our pageant going, and I did it. There's something that I can do to encourage other women. I can do that.
That's awesome. Dads have a way of holding things up for you to see that you don't always want to see.
Most of the time when something makes me really angry at the beginning, after I have time to step back and look at it, I can usually find some kind of nugget of truth that will help me further down the road.
Well, the Rebel Tribe isn't just a podcast. It's also it's a group. We have a Facebook group, and we're getting ready to start having some meetup events and that in different areas, and in both pageantry and in sports. Community is key. So how has the support from your fellow pageant queens and the athletes, how's that impacted your journey?
Well, as I mentioned, had it not been for 5 or 6 of the former queens that pitched in and helped get the money together to put on the first pageant that I was the administrator for, the pageant wouldn't have happened, because it takes about $6,000 to put on a state pageant, because the state pageant is responsible for sending the state queen onto the national pageant. And it's held at the Tropicana Resort and Hotel there in Atlantic City, which is not a cheap place. And if you have time, anybody that's listening, you can go to the Ms. Arkansas Senior America Pageant Incorporated Facebook page, and the pageant was live streamed there from the Tropicana, and you can see what a good job and what I want to say, very professionally done. So the queens that go have an experience of a lifetime. And I would encourage any woman that's 60 plus that would like to have more experiences in her life, experiences where she's stepping outside of her comfort zone, to enter the state pageant, like me and many others who eventually became the state queen. You learn so much. And some of our contestants that won the state queen title, they entered 3 or 4 times, just like you would hear about the people that entered Miss America. They entered several times But each time you learn a little bit more about yourself. The contestants help each other. You're backstage and somebody's going, oh my gosh, I forgot my lipstick. Well, I've got one. Or I forgot my hairspray. Well, here, let me fix your hair for you. And we just all pull together. And many of the state queens that I met in 2017 at the national pageant, I'm still friends with them on Facebook. We still have contact. So it takes all of us to be able to make things run.
Well, for those of us who don't have any desire to be pageant queens,
Join the crowd.
and we're never going to be Olympic athletes, okay? What message do you have for us? You know, us in our senior years who don't want to be pageant queens and who can't, who are not athletic in any way. What message do you have for us about embracing opportunities and pushing our boundaries?
If you come across an opportunity that kindles a little fire inside of you, don't walk away from it. Check it out. Look into it. Step out and see. Go to a meeting. Talk to somebody. Go ahead and go. You might find out that that's something that will become your passion.
So what's next for you? Pageant queen, Olympic athlete, what's next? Do you have any other goals? What other goals are there?
At this point, I don't close any doors. There's always something, of course, already working toward putting on next year's pageant. And like I still attend through the pageant, or the Ms. Arkansas Senior America pageant. We still attend the Senior Olympics. Legina, our reigning queen, and myself went down to where was it held? Cersei, to the pickleball games that the Senior Olympics were holding, and passed out medals. And Legina went to the weightlifting competition. They're close to her in Hot Springs. So we're still really active with the Senior Olympics. And I look for opportunities, and I would encourage any woman that's 60 plus, look for an opportunity. Look and see what my life's not over yet. And if your life is not over yet and you're still living, there's still a purpose for you, or you wouldn't be here. So when you, something like I said, just kind of a little quickening inside of you when you hear something, when you go to a meeting, look into it, and you're going to find out that your life will become much more full.
Well, we have focused mostly today on women over 60 because fortunately, I'm not going to say unfortunately, because I'm quite content with my age, to be honest. Being this old gives you a lot of freedom because you don't care anymore what people think. Okay. So, I don't care.
Well, I do and I don't. I never want to intentionally hurt anyone or cause anyone to stumble. So if I can lift someone up, and I will be 72 in December. So I encourage people to go ahead, get out there, be active. If you're not happy with where you are in life, if you are just getting up of a morning and eating breakfast and sitting down and watching television and just kind of puttering around, ask yourself that question. Am I really happy with where I am in my life? Or is there a purpose for me still? Do I need to go out there and encourage someone today? You know, it makes us all feel good. Somebody sees us in a shopping or grocery store, and somebody says, "Oh, I really like your shoes." It just makes you stand up a little straighter. Maybe I can be that person that says to somebody, "You really look good today," and just encourage people along the way. That might be just what somebody needed. They may be going through something that God only knows what we're going through. If somebody cuts you off, think they may have just gotten a message that their loved one died. They may have just gotten a bad report from the doctor. Maybe they weren't thinking clearly at the time. Everybody needs to show just a little bit more grace. And I think if we start showing everybody a little more grace, then our lives will be richer, and we'll start going to more places to look for more opportunities to make people feel better about themselves.
Well, what I really wanted to ask you, because I think this is so key to the Rebel Tribe. The Rebel Tribe isn't just for older women, it's for women in general. And I think this is what's very important to get across to some people. So I want to say 50. Yeah, pretty close to 50. Well, yeah, pretty close to almost 60, actually, now that I think about it, when I wrote my first book. And I was 67 when I started this podcast. You are Ms. Senior, Arkansas Senior America. You're out there running in the Olympics at over 60. We did not get here. We didn't just wake up one day and go, "I'm going to go do this." We had a lot of, you had your dad, you had your, advice from your dad. We both had a lot of advice and support and a nudge when we needed it, or whatever it took to get us here.
Exactly.
So what advice would you give to the younger women out there, the women in their 20s and their 30s, who are sitting back and looking at us and going, "I could never do that. I could never be that person." What advice would you give them to start right now, so that when they hit our age, they're not sitting here looking back and going, "I wish I had done whatever"?
I would say look for the opportunities. They're before you every day. When I was 47, I went back to college. It took me a while to get my degree, but I got my degree in gerontology, and there are goals. If you have a dream and you go, "I don't see any way I can do that right now," maybe just do one step. Figure out what one step to put you closer to that dream. You may think, "Well, I've got the kids, I have this, I'm doing this." We have if you want to go further your education, we have online learning now. Back then, we didn't have online learning. I had to finish my job that day and go to night classes. I had to drive 50 miles round trip to go to those night classes. So you can do it. Just tell yourself, if Sherry Marshall, coming from a little rural town where I didn't even have an indoor bathroom as a child, didn't get an indoor plumbing until I was 12 years old, lived on a dirt road that it was 8 miles of dirt road to even get to a paved highway. Could not stand to wear a dress. Boots and jeans, that was what I lived for. When I had 2 children, it was 1984. I took them to county library to get a library card. They didn't have a problem getting the card. I didn't have a library card for that library. So I applied, and they weren't going to let me have a library card in my name. They were going to have me put the library card in my husband's name. I said, why? He's not going to be the one reading this book. Well, that's just the way we do it. I said, well, that's just not the way I'm going to do it. So I was the first married woman in Crawford County to get a library card in her own name. That was 1984. So younger women now, you have so many advantages, and I know you don't want to hear that, but the groundwork has been laid. So walk down that road.
Thank you for that, because so many women I talk to that are young don't believe, they don't understand. I grew up in the 70s, and yeah, okay. I can tell you some stories, okay. So I really appreciate you saying that, because they don't believe it. They think we've always had all of this, and we haven't. I mean, we haven't. I
No,
could not be doing what I'm doing right now. I could not have a business of my own in my own name, even a few years, even, just it wasn't allowed. Women couldn't own businesses. So
exactly. And women weren't allowed the opportunity in many cases to further their education outside of high school. Women, until Title IX, women didn't have the opportunity to play sports. I was fortunate in our high school. We had basketball for girls. That was the only sport that we had. After I graduated high school, softball came in, and I was able to play a little bit of softball. And then when I had my first child, I had to totally give up sports. I didn't have anybody to watch my children for me while I went to play. Grandparents didn't look up on that very favorably for parents to go off and play while they watch their children for them. but and at while I was growing up, girls weren't allowed to wear jeans. We were to wear dresses to school or to church. And thankfully, I had some forward-thinking parents. They sent me to first grade in a dress one day, and I sat there and wouldn't do anything. So they decided if I was going to have an education, I was going to wear jeans. So here's this little girl that only wore boots and jeans and couldn't tie a dress on me. And now I'm the administrator of a state pageant.
well, this has been so much fun. I'm so glad you decided to do this as my very first one, because there is going to be a whole series, but I'm so glad you kicked it off, because you are such an inspiration. I mean, it's just awesome all you've done. And I don't want to say at our age, but it's awesome what you've done at our age. Let's be real, okay? Let's be real.
Oh, I'm so thankful that you asked me to do this, because as we said, if we can encourage even one person, whether they be older, have more years behind them than they do in front of them, or a young woman who has more years ahead of her than she has behind her, we all have to be encouraged. And I would encourage you, and I know everybody hates for somebody to say this, if I can do this, you can do this. There were 33 people in my high school graduating class. We had one microscope in our school. There were no computers, so I learned how to type on a manual typewriter, and computers came in after I was grown. So thankfully, Dr. Google and I have become very good friends, and I have learned to be on a podcast with you. I've learned how to set up our pageant to be a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And if you have the desire, you can find a way.
So thank you so much, Sherry. You have been absolutely awesome. I can honestly say that I now know a beauty queen and an Olympic athlete. So
Well, thank you. And I can say I personally know a podcaster. You're my first person that I know that does podcasts.
and if you would like to get to know Sherry a little better, I'm going to post some links to so you can connect with her. I'm going to post them in the description on this podcast. And if you want to get to meet the rest of the ladies that are coming up behind her, please like, share, comment, do the things, help us grow, because we're trying to get the word out there. Women need us, and we're trying to reach them. So do all the stuff, hit that button, do all the stuff. I'm sure there's a term for it, but I'm old and I don't know it all. So, okay.
We're not old, we're just getting started.
Yep.
Wait, that's one thing that we need to do as women is we need to quit saying some of the phrases that we say. Let's look at it as an empowerment. That's like recently, when we're giving, say, a license plate, we would say A is in Adam, J is in James, etc. And I thought, why are we doing that? Why don't we use female names when we give letters? You have to retrain yourself, but you can say A is in Alice, J is in Janice, S is in Sherry. We need to change the narrative. And the only way we can change the narrative is if we women begin changing the narrative. We need to talk positive about ourselves. We need to encourage other women to talk positive about ourselves.
And I'm going to leave it on that note because I think that is probably one of the most important things you've said all night. No one's going to change it for us. If we want things to change, we have to stand up and do it ourselves. So thank you, Sherry. It's been a blast having you on.
Thank you so much for having me.